Good morning and welcome to Live with Leanne solo show. I'm on my own today. So I'm going to share this video, give you guys a few seconds to hop on, make sure this is actually live, and then we're gonna get rolling. I don't see it yet. I do now. Yay. Neil and Sheila are here. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And Caroline is here. All right. Awesome. I'm just going to wave at you, Caroline. So good morning, you guys. I'm going to share this video to the Anglican Diocese of Montreal page. Thanks for already giving a few hearts and thumbs up. I am so happy to see you today. I am going to ask for you guys to share this video today because I'm going to give you a good reason to share it. Good morning, Sheila. We're talking all about community. And of course, as Christians, community is central to our faith, and building community is essential. So obviously, most of us have been in community or in community at least for worship time on Sundays. We're going to unpack all the community stuff, and I love you guys to write in the comments anything you can think of around community. I've got some quotes to share. If you have some quotes, Valerie Bennett's watching. So I love being in community here with you now. I'm going to stop rambling so I can quickly share this video, and then we can hang out together. So I'm sharing it to the Anglican Diocese of Montreal Facebook page. Awesome idea to share it to a church page, you guys. Artie's here. Artie and Karen is here. Sweet. I'm so glad you guys are here. You have no idea. Share it to my story. Cool. Post. And I'm going to share it to the diocesan page. Do share it with your church page, guys. Okay? Not even joking. So it is Tuesday, May the 14th. It's kind of, hey Nikki, it's kind of crappy out today. It's like very, sorry, just sharing it still. It's like cold. And it's one thing to have like a full blown like pouring rain situation going on in May because the flowers like that. But it's a whole other thing when you have this like cold that goes with it because it's really cold. Share on a page I manage. I do manage the Anglican Diocese of Montreal page. There we go. So I'm all shared out. Hope you are too. Welcome to Jean Daniel. So you guys, we are building community online this morning, and we are talking about community online this morning. So I do hope that you will, in order to be really in community, you need to be a contributor. So I really do hope that you will take a few seconds to just say hi. I'm going to introduce myself because some of you may be meeting me for the first time, and some of you may be curious. Welcome, Paul. So my name is Leanne Matthews, and this is Live with Leanne, and every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, I hang out live here on Facebook, and I build community. I build digital community. And I gave you guys a poll last week. I was like, what do you think we should do? Should we talk about community building today, or should we talk about digital communications? And you guys voted, and I appreciate that you voted, so thanks for taking the poll. You guys voted in favor of building community. So of course there is some synergy, some intersection between community building and digital communications because they both do build community. So we are going to touch a little bit on how to build community in a digital way, because that's what we're doing right now. But yeah, we're going to talk about lots of other stuff around building community separate from, we're going to talk about face-to-face community. Jillian, hi. So Jillian is actually one of the people, because I had the privilege of giving a presentation on community building to a young adult group in Halifax, and Jillian was one of the members. So Jillian, this is for you. Some of it's going to be redundant because some of the stuff I'm talking about today, I presented to you guys already. But I do hope that you guys will chime in with more stuff because I'm just me, and this is my experience of community, and I'd love to know what yours is. So I'm Leanne. If I'm going to build community with you, I've got to be willing to show up with authenticity and let you know who I am. So I can't hide here. I'm just going to let you know who I am. So my name is Leanne Matthews, and I work here for the Anglican Diocese of Montreal. I do youth administrative projects for youth ministry, and I also do digital communications and website stuff. So that's my job, and part of my job here is that I like to show up and be on Facebook Live with you guys on Tuesday mornings. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I don't know, over 100 shows. I don't remember exactly how many, but we did a 100th show. We had a big party thing not too long ago. Good morning from Ali. It was great at Emerge. That's the name of the conference. And our bishop is watching too. Yes, so welcome aboard. Emerge Conference was great, and thank you for inviting me to do that, Ali. It was a privilege. So we'll be talking a little bit about that stuff today. So yeah, I do online communications, and I also do some, good morning, Mary. I also do some face-to-face community building right here every month. We do Supper Club. And Supper Club, of course, is a wonderful example of Christian community and community building. So for me, like, community building is all about relationships, all about connection. And I think, surprisingly, you can actually get quite connected and build relationships even in the digital realm. But in face-to-face, you can get a different, I'm not going to say deeper, because it's different. Face-to-face communications affords you to understand like things like body language and stuff. So that stuff you can't understand. Like, the energy and the body language is a little more difficult to discern online. Karen says she's driving to Starbucks in Timmins. All right, Karen, I want you to watch certainly when you get to the Starbucks. But please be careful in your car on the Facebook, okay? Yeah, so that's about me. And I wanted to give you a little fun fact about me. I think it's, and I'd love to have a fun fact about you too. So a fun fact about me, random fun fact, is that my favorite color is red. And that, I don't even know why my favorite color is red, but it is. I don't even often wear red. Sometimes I have red nail polish. I have none today. Mom is here. Hi, Mom. We're talking about community, and I'm giving you guys a bit of a sense of who I am. To build community, we need to show up and be authentic. So I'm just giving you a fun fact about me. My favorite color is red, and I'm not really even sure why. And hi, Erin. So thanks for being online with me this morning, building community. Give me a fun fact about you. Share something that could be, something random about you, and hopefully I'll be able to read it in the comments here. So Ardith, of course, is also on the scene, making sure she's putting links to any of the things that we talk about today. So thanks for being here, Ardith. Thanks for all of you for showing up for Live with Leanne on today's community building episode number 100 and something. I don't even remember what number it is. So my fun fact is that my favorite color is red. Yep. And I'd love to know your fun fact. Hey, Fred, I saw you at the St. Philip's Church bazaar thing, craft fair on Saturday. And hi, Ryan. My mom says, good morning, my lovely. Good morning to you, Mom. My lovely. So glad you guys are hopping on. Remember, it's Community Building Day, and being in community means a little bit of sharing and vulnerability. So give me a fun fact about you, and I'll try to read it if it's not too confusing and distracting. Welcome aboard. So there are like many types of community. We've already touched on a few of them. You can build community online. You can build community in face-to-face context. Of course, as Christians, building community, as I've already said, is central to our faith. It is what we do every Sunday. It is what we are called to do. And it is a way that I think we're able to experience God in much deeper ways when we're in community than when we're just alone. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the stages of community. I have done a couple of community workshops, presented them, and I really fun fact, I cooked a whole chicken last night in an Instant Pot. Very exciting. That is a fun fact. I love it. Jonathan Bailey, welcome aboard. We're talking about community, and I'm looking for fun facts about you, because building community is all about showing up and being authentic. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Scott Peck's stages of community before we go any further. He says that there are 4, and I find these very helpful. If you think about a community, just call to mind a community that you have been a part of, that you're the one you're building. Hold on, fun fact from Karen. Her grandfather graduated from McGill in 1915, black man ordained in Methodist Church in the West Indies. Awesome fun fact. Chock full of coolness there, Karen. Sheila's fun fact is I haven't made it to my office yet this morning, and oops. And Bishop Mary says I bought a mother of the bride dress yesterday. Congratulations, that's super exciting, Bishop. And we have a link from Jillian. She was thinking about this in relation to community building. Thanks for putting that link. I do hope you guys will take a minute to check out that link, and please feel free to include any other links for community building. And hi, Lil. Love building community with you this morning in this way. Roz says the death of Jean Vanier and Rachel Held Evans have reminded us about authentic community. Absolutely, Roz. Sad and thankful. Likewise. But I did put a quote of Jean Vanier just yesterday. The quote was, community is a sign that love is possible in a materialistic world where people so often either ignore or fight each other. It's a sign that we don't need a lot of money to be happy. In fact, quite the opposite. Right? Yeah. Yes, and that's right, Roz. I'm assuming Bishop Mary bought the dress for Catherine's wedding. So let's talk quickly about Scott Peck's 4 stages of community. I want you to call to mind a community that you've been a part of, either the community that you have built or are building. And let's think about these 4 stages, and I want you to reflect on where do you think that community is right now in terms of its development, because communities, like all things, they grow and they evolve and they develop, and we need to be mindful of that as we are part of or building communities. So Scott Peck says that that a group of strangers who come together to create a community goes through 4 distinct and predictable phases. The first one is pseudo-community. That's the one where, you guys are all really polite and you all just meet each other and everyone's like pretty superficial, and everyone's wanting, it's conflict avoidant, right? Everyone wants to just, not to create any waves. The group appears to be functioning really smoothly, but individuality, intimacy, and honesty are crushed. So generalizations and platitudes are characteristic of this stage. Yeah, I think we all feel quite comfortable in pseudo-community context, right? Because probably someone's not going to yell at you. But it also might mean that you're not authentically having an opportunity to really show up and be brothers and sisters in Christ, right? It means you're just kind of like, just there, but not there. So, according to Peck, the second phase of community is chaos. No one really likes this. So individual differences may start to surface. This is a normal part of being community. You don't always get along flawlessly. Then the group moves into chaos. The chaos centers around well-intentioned but misguided attempts to heal and convert. Differences come out in the open, and the group tries to obliterate them. It's a stage of uncreative and unconstructive fighting and struggle. Hi, Edward. Welcome aboard. We're talking about community. We're talking about Scott Peck's 4 stages of community, the second one being chaos. As long as the goal is true community, according to Peck, he says the organization as an attempted solution to chaos is unworkable. So organization might be something that we might think is the right way to get through the chaotic stage, but according to Peck, it's not organization. Yeah, escape into organization. I can relate to that. I think organization is something that we often default to as a way of trying to manage chaos and conflict. Hey, Mark Dunwoody is here, all the way from, actually I was going to say the UK, but I believe you are in America. Nice to have you. Talking about community. Glad you guys are being a community with me today on Facebook Live. So many live viewers. So happy that we're all together in this way. The next phase of community, according to Scott Peck, is emptiness. We hate this part, right? We would rather be organized and efficient. We don't like the emptiness, but these are like spiritual phases as well, right? I'll check back in a bit. Cool, Jillian. Welcome back when you come back. So the way through chaos to true community, according to Peck, is emptiness. It's the hardest and most crucial stage of community development. It means members emptying themselves of barriers to communication. I don't know about you, but I can certainly relate to that. Institution, says Ryan, is the lowest common denominator type of community, held together by rules and norms, but necessarily love. Institution is the lowest common denominator type of community, held together by rules and norms, but necessarily love. Yeah, it's something we default to quite quickly, the stage of organization and institution where we feel like we have it going on, but it's emptiness, according to Peck, that's going to lead to true community. Byron Arter is watching. Okay, so the stage of emptiness is ushered in as members begin to share their own brokenness, their vulnerability, their defeat, their failures, their fears, rather than acting as if they have it all together, right? Yeah, that's when we're in the emptiness where we all kind of go, I don't really know what I'm doing, and kind of give it to God a little bit, right? So according to Peck, the 4th stage of community, and I don't know if any of you, please do chime in if you have experienced a community that has entered into the phase known as true community. And he says that true community emerges as the group chooses to embrace not only the light, but life's darkness. True community is both joyful and realistic. The transformation of the group from a collection of individuals into true community requires little deaths. Little deaths in many of the individuals, but it also is a time of group death, group dying. Through this emptiness, the this sacrifice comes true community. In the final stage, a soft quietness descends. It's a kind of peace. Members begin to speak of their deepest and most vulnerable parts, and others will simply listen. True community. Another fact, according to Karen, is she's studying for French test to help to be a part of a bilingual community. Thanks for sharing your fun facts. Us showing up together in this way is only meaningful if we're willing to actually share a little bit about one another. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for letting us know how you are. Those are the 4 stages of community, and they are pseudo-community, chaos, emptiness, and true community, according to Scott Peck. I find these very helpful. I don't know. Let me know if you do too. Particularly because I've been in a lot of situations where I really see that like people have a really hard time moving through the emptiness into the true community, because we get stuck quite a lot in pseudo community, and we really hate the chaos. So we keep shooting back into pseudo community. What's been your experience? There are characteristics, according to Scott Peck. There are characteristics. I think there's 8 of them, and here they are. These are interesting too. So do a little checklist. Ryan Cook says true community requires that often tensions have to be held and not always resolved, which is not easy. It takes depth of soul, emotional maturity to handle such things. Yeah, and a whole lot of faith. A whole lot of letting God in, right? Letting God into the space. So I will just go through Scott Peck's characteristics of community, and I want you guys to do a little like mental checklist about these characteristics. And again, think of a community that has been really, according to you, high functioning, a community that you love, a community that maybe is spiritually very important to you, maybe your church community, maybe a study group, maybe even a digital community, a Bible study, I don't know, maybe supper club. Jean-Daniel says, I have learned that true community emerges often from sheer quantity, from sheer quantity of one-on-one time, which is part of why fun retreats are so important in serious university ministry. Well, I think fun is important for community building across the board. Anderson Marsh says, hello from England. Thanks for that, Jean-Daniel, and thanks for those, Ryan. Please keep your wisdom and your feedback coming. I love what you guys are, how you guys are contributing. We want more of that. We're talking about community. We're talking about Scott Peck's stages of community and characteristics of community, which I'm about to dive into in a second. I just wanted to remind you guys also, thanks for the link to Scott Peck, that when we talk about community building, and of course we do talk, this is part of my role, is to do youth ministry and projects around youth and ministry to youth. So of course, all of these, this whole conversation around community is essential to youth ministry, essential to relationships with kids, right? This is not just an adult thing. I think that we know that how much kids thrive on their communities. This is what really, really, really lights them up and motivates them and gets them through life. So to be a supporter of communities and a builder of community with kids in youth ministry context is like probably one of the highest priorities you should have. Lil, there was one from Karen. I've been thinking about community, and I think a foundational issue is communication. Thank you. And Lil says high functioning communities incorporate kindness through all the darkness and the many conflicts. Sweet. Thank you for those. Moving right along to Scott Peck's characteristics of community. Let's take a minute to just think about a community and does the community you're reflecting on, does it have these characteristics? Hey Patrick, welcome to Live with Leanne. It's Tuesday, May the 14th, and I'm so glad you guys are all here in community with me now. So Peck says that the characteristics of community are, get your pen and paper ready, inclusivity. We use that word a lot. He says that inclusivity is about commitment and consensus. So members accept and embrace each other. They celebrate their individuality and they transcend their differences. They commit themselves to the effort and the people involved. They make decisions and reconcile their differences through consensus. Tricky to find consensus in our differences. Something that we struggle with in the church quite a lot. But according to Peck, I don't believe they're in any order of hierarchy. I think they're just listed, but he says that inclusivity is one of the components, one of the characteristics of a good, healthy, true community. Realism. Members bring together multiple perspectives to better understand the whole context of the situation. Decisions are more well-rounded and humble rather than one-sided and arrogant. Can't really disagree with that. So inclusivity and realism being the first two components or characteristics of community. Contemplation. Members examine themselves. They are individually and collectively self-aware of the world outside themselves, the world inside themselves, and the relationship between the two. As Christians, we're supposed to be quite contemplative, so hopefully that's something that we rely on as a source of strength, being self-aware and of the world outside ourselves and the world inside ourselves, right? In our prayer life. A safe place. Safety. Safety is essential. And we know that when we're in conflict, we don't feel safe often, depending on the way that people choose to express their conflict, express their discord. Anderson Marsh asks, can we have consensus yet having a different view? What do you think, Anderson? I hope so. I hope so. I hope there's ways we can find consensus, even if we have a different view. Depends on what we're seeking consensus on, but I believe it's possible. Peck believes it's possible. So a safe place, according to Peck, is where members allow others to share their vulnerability, heal themselves, and express who they truly are. So imagine that even in a conflict situation, if you were able to create safety in the conflict, because conflict is an essential part of being in true community. We need to be really good at not always having the same point of view, disagreeing maybe, but still creating safety for one another. Allowing others to share their vulnerability. That's something we're not always really good at. To heal ourselves and express who we truly are. I don't know, I think that's a great one. A peaceful place, according to Peck, is where members experientially discover the rules for peacemaking and embrace its virtues. They feel and express compassion and respect for each other as fellow human beings. Peacemaking, experientially discover the rules for peacemaking and embrace virtues. They feel and express compassion and respect for each other as fellow human beings. Anderson says, I think it's about understanding others' views, not always to change those views. Yeah, disagreeing well. Thank you for sharing that. I wholeheartedly agree. Again, feel free to chime in with any of your feedback on some of, or if you have experienced community that has any of these qualities, these characteristics. I'd love to hear about them. A group that can fight gracefully. Well, there we go. I think this is what we've all been kind of curious about. Members resolve conflicts with wisdom and grace. They listen, understand. This is great, says Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for being here. They listen, they understand, and they respect each other's gifts. They accept each other's limitations. They celebrate their differences. They bind each other's wounds and commit to struggle together rather than against each other. Together rather than against. Mic drop, right? I think that's kind of, sort of, probably all we would need. If we were able to do that, to fight with grace, together rather than against, because, as people of God, as the body of Christ, that's what we all have in common. That's our common thread. We're always together in that. So we really, I'm often shocked when we are in conflict because we're one body. There's nothing to fight about. So our bishop has something to say. Thank you for that, Bishop Mary Irwin Gibson. Some Indigenous Christian communities are using gospel-based discipleship when they meet, not just for church services, but in any context in which they are spending a day together. So there is a doc there. I actually will be putting together a document on community building that I prepared. So I'll include Bishop Mary's doc on gospel-based discipleship in the doc, and I'll have it on our website, and we'll put a link to it. I'll put it here. I'll put it here on the Facebook. so you guys can have access to it and do what you need to do with it. Anderson says, I think it's important to remember that these ideas can be realized in secular groups as well. For shiz, I think, yes, I'm sorry if I in any way imply that these groups were not for, that these ideas were not for secular groups as well. Absolutely, and I think that, yeah, I think yes. I'm not, I'm just gonna say yes. Thank you and thanks for the reminder on that, Anderson. And thanks for the link, Bishop. So we have two more from Peck in terms of unpacking these characteristics of community. They are shared leadership. Shared leadership. What do you make of that? He says that members harness the flow of leadership to make decisions and set a course of action. It is the spirit of community itself that leads and not any single individual. Hold on, it is the spirit of community itself that leads. Hello. And not any single individual. Yeah, what do you make of that? I think that is fantastic, actually. Again, it really implies that your sense of community, your shared understanding of community needs to be quite intact in order to let that be the leading force. But shared leadership, I think we're pretty good. I mean, in the church, we often delegate quite a lot of our leadership responsibilities to our lay people. And I think that's something that is really, really healthy and important to do, to, to spread the leadership and to teach leadership. We could have a whole talk. We should have a whole talk on leadership itself. That's a whole other conversation to unpack. So I'm going to leave it there, other than to say that according to Peck, we need to share that leadership, and I wonder how that might break down if we were to challenge ourselves. It's called the body of Christ. Yeah. Thank you, Karen. And welcome to Jen. So glad that so many of you are hopping on live with Leanne this morning, talking about community, building community, being community. Lil says, fear is usually what puts us against them. If we can navigate through our fears, conflicts can become community. I feel like you're familiar with some of this, with some of Scott Peck's work, Lil. I know you do a lot of community building yourself. You're a member of Supper Club, and also you're doing all kinds of work in like laughter yoga and stuff. So thank you for your insights and your wisdom. Fear is usually what puts us against them. It's fear. You're right. I wonder what we're afraid of in the church. Juliana says, shared leadership empowers the community spirit. Yes. And the last one, thank you for bringing that up. The last one is a spirit. A spirit. The true spirit of community is the spirit of peace, love, wisdom, and power. Members may view the source of this spirit as an outgrowth of the collective self, or as the manifestation of a higher will. Well, we know, again, if this applies to in a secular context, you could use whatever language you need. Here in the church, we would definitely call it Jesus, God, Lord, the body of Christ, right? All these things, the collective, and the higher will. We know who the higher will is. Yeah, I made it for the end. Yay, Glow. So glad you're here talking about community with us. Definitely do watch on the rerun, you guys. You could always just, if you haven't watched the beginning part, because there's some nuggets. We've been talking about Scott Peck's stages of community and characteristics of community. I have a couple of quotes to read, so don't go anywhere. I also want to, I have some do's and don'ts. I have some community do's and don'ts. So stick around, because yeah, we're still warming up here. Make sure to share this video, and make sure to let me know about your experience of community. Let me know if any of these characteristics of community resonate with you or don't resonate with you, or even the 4 stages of community. Have you ever experienced a true community? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How long did it last? So let's read. I'm going to read, you guys probably know me by now. I love Richard Rohr. Richard Rohr is like a really cool theologian guy. I think he's like an Ignatian Jesuit guy or something. He's written a whole bunch of books, and he's really popular on the interwebs. And I get his emails every day in the morning, and I just love to read what he has to say. So I'm going to read to you a little quote from Richard Rohr on community. Much of formal church has been unable to create any practical community, according to Rohr. Yet today we see the emergence of new faith communities, many parachurch structures. that seek to return to this foundational definition of church. They may not look like obvious church, but they exemplify the kinds of actual community that Jesus, Paul, and early Christians envisioned. Imagine that. People are gathering in neighborhood associations, collective gardens, social services, and volunteer groups. Supper club, he didn't write that. I just threw it in. He's a Franciscan. Thanks. That's why I like him. I like the Franciscans. People are gathering. I threw in supper club. He didn't say supper club. Just kidding, obviously. People are gathering to share resources, support each other, and nurture connection. They're coming together seeking creative ways of healing and whole-making. Imagine that. The invisible church might be doing this just as much, if not more, than the visible. The Holy Spirit is both humble and anonymous. I like that one. I love Richard Rohr. Even though he's kind of dissing the formal church, he says that the formal church has been unable to create a new practical community. I don't know what to think about that. It's kind of a diss. I think many of us would say we've experienced quite a lot of probably very meaningful and impactful community within our churches. No? I know I have. Not in every church. Different churches have different types of communities that respond to different needs. So not every single church experience for me has been an example of true community, but I have experienced community in church. Have you? I don't know. I have another quote. Another guy that I love. I need to get some. I should have taken some quotes from Rachel Held Evans. I'm a massive fan of her books. The Holy Spirit is humble. I love that. And anonymous. It's good. Here's another one from Richard Rohr. Thanks for the hearts. Thanks for that. Richard Rohr says, the golden rule, love your neighbor as yourself, in mind, heart, and body. Jesus and Paul said it, love of neighbor and God. The only thing you owe God and yourself and one another is love. Church, whether 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am, just as strong as present in the bread, in the wine. You can experience church in true and deep, meaningful ways when you gather with friends and family, such as small groups and homes, and supper club. Just kidding, he didn't say supper club. He didn't say it. I'm just being cheeky. But you know what I'm saying. Dinner church, supper club, community gatherings, whatever. Our bishop, okay, hold on, a couple of comments. Yes, Bishop has certainly experienced community in church. Thank you for that. Did I miss anyone? And some of the good and some of the bad, but a family of people trying to love God and each other. Yeah, not so bad. But I wonder if we look at it in terms through the lenses of the Scott Peck's stages of community, if we really did an analysis of that, how would some of our church communities fare, do you think? When I look at it through those lenses, I'm always very curious. So I'm like, some of us are having trouble getting past pseudo-community and into the deeper levels of community. Anderson says, can you add Richard's quote on your fact sheet thing? I certainly will. It's already there. It's already there. Thank you. Mary says, Bishop Mary Irwin Gibson says, I think church is like going to a baseball practice where we practice what we are not good at. Yeah, that's how we get better, right? We have to keep practicing. We have to keep going back into the baseball diamond, the arena, and honing our capacity for community through connection, vulnerability, and just keep putting it in. Love is a choice, says Aaron Thorpe. We choose to love when we show up for and with one another. Yes, that's good. Love is a choice, and we choose to love when we show up for and with one another. Well, thank you for choosing to write that and to share that and to be here for and with me and all of us today in this way. Neil, I'm going to read Anderson's, then go to Neil. Neil Anderson says, I have found a Christ-likeness in a secular art group. Cool, Anderson. We break bread and biscuits. Sorry, just moved. We break bread and biscuits and drink wine, well, tea, and talk about life since the last time we meet. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm just going to do a quick segue. I wasn't planning on saying this, but Fred Rogers is, Mr. Rogers was like a Presbyterian minister and stuff. And he chose to build community without talking about Jesus or God or Christ, but he was a full-blown Christian. But he was building community with in all of his contexts with young people, with children throughout his life. That was his ministry. But I love, like, it just occurred to me, like, all the times I watched him as a young child and how impacted I was by his message, by his ministry. He didn't need to say Jesus for me to know that, he was definitely a follower of Jesus. So I don't want to impose anything onto you, Anderson. I just want to acknowledge that I think you can, be in community in really meaningful and spiritual ways without needing to always talk about it that way if you're outside the church. Neil. Thank you, Neil. Saint Benedict valued stability in community as a key spiritual discipline. There's always a monastery or community that looks preferable to the one you are in. But unless you find God amongst the people around you, you won't find God somewhere else. Awesome. Thank you for that. You guys are like giving all the nuggets. Appreciate that. And Mary says, gathering in the presence of the one to whom we must all give account. Yeah. That's definitely an ingredient for community. So this is a guy named Reverend Dr. William Barber. I love him. He's an American preacher. Like, he can preach. Like, I've watched his Facebook Live stuff. Like, he does some Facebook Live, his like sermons on live, and like his sermons are like forever. Damn, are they good? I have a quote from him, and I would just urge you to like just Google the guy and listen. Just stand back because you'll be in awe. He says, big-heartedness always draws close to the other, always draws the other close. Big-heartedness. Francis of Assisi, Benedict, Dorothy Day, not the one we just lost, Jean Vanier, like Jesus himself, draw people naturally into relationship, right? Relationship is key. And the hunger of the human heart that God put in us is not just for casual and recreational relationships. We long for relationships of meaning. We long to be connected for healing, for vocation, and for mission. Our tradition suggests that it's very difficult to live a life of integrity apart from the support, encouragement, witness, challenge, and celebration of a community. Community is, if you will, the medium in which so many other important things of the gospel can happen. Community is an engine for peace. It's fuel for justice. We are made for each other. As a species, we have always known that we could not survive, could not flourish without each other. Whatever is to prosper, grow, or multiply will not only happen with the nourishment of people who are for each other in a significant way, will only happen with the nourishment of people who are for each other in a significant way. Dr. Reverend William J. Barber. How about them apples, right? I love him. Yeah, how are we doing? You guys are still sticking around with me. I appreciate that. So I do have some do's and don'ts, community do's and don'ts. I came up with them. You can come up with some. I don't know. Clearly, I am just me. I am not claiming to be any kind of expert. I'm somebody who has had the privilege of presenting a few workshops on community building, and I do build community with in youth ministry and supper club and stuff like that, and here with you. So I just put together based on my experience, based on my learnings and my readings, and based on what spoke to me about some do's and don'ts of community. But definitely shoot your do's and don'ts in the comments if you feel so inclined. So, Leanne's community, do's and don'ts. Are you all ready? All right. First of all, I say be present. This is a cherished gift in our digital time. I know that we are all, all over the place, but just to be present, my gosh, it's a huge gift. Anderson says you might like to read Reverend Dave Tomlinson. He's an amazing writer. Thank you for that, Anderson, and I will. I'll definitely look that up. Tell me if there's a book in particular I should read of his. So be present, guys. In our digital time where we're constantly looking at our devices, Like, be present. And yeah, I would say be present for yourself, be present for God, and be present for one another. Put away your device and just be there. Sometimes just sitting across the table and saying, what's up? How are you? Community building tip number 1 is be present. Community building tip number 2 is be decent. And that can probably mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I can just leave that with you. What does decent mean for you? I mean, we know what it means as followers, of Jesus followers. Decent. Thanks for the link to Dave Tomlinson. I can find the book there, I hope. Thank you. Be humble. So don't think too highly of your gifts, but always be willing to learn and try. Learn and try. So when you come into a community setting, I just think it's really important for people, how to be a bad Christian. I love it. Thank you, Anderson. I just think it's really important for people to not have too high an opinion of themselves. And I think the beginner's mindset is really important. I think to come into a community, really being willing to like learn from other people's gifts, because people probably have stuff to share. So be present, be decent, be humble. So far it's all do's. I don't have any don'ts, but there are some don'ts coming. Be generous. So that can be generous with your presence, generous with your time, generous with your food, generous with your wine, generous with whatever gifts you have. Give them away. Give it all away. Whatever knowledge you have, give it, right? Be generous. Generous of spirit. If you have money to give, you have gifts to contribute, like, yeah, give it. Number 5, set some boundaries. Don't let others, here we go, here's the don't. Do set some boundaries, but don't let others take advantage of your kindness and deplete you or the group. Kind of a delicate balance there, right? In terms of communities, I'm sure we can all think of an example of a community where there were some people didn't have proper boundaries and they depleted the group and the energy of the group because they were just taking too much. So part of being in community, part of being in leadership, part of creating healthy, flourishing communities, it's like a braid. All these things are all tangled in each other. Cool. I love that thought. Super. Thank you, Jillian. It is like a braid. Yeah, and it's not too organized. It's kind of like, right? We can't get too stuck up on one idea or one thing. Then there's no God. You have to let the Holy Spirit do some stuff. Let there be some oxygen. Yeah, so boundaries are essential because they help keep everybody like safe, right? And yeah, and it's really, you need to set boundaries. And again, I don't know what those might look like for you in your context. I don't know what community you're building. But I think we really need to think and reflect on boundaries. It's hard. Boundaries are always hard in relationships. I know there's a lot of interesting, I think Neil is part of a boundary setting there's workshops on boundaries. It's a whole conversation in itself. Again, boundaries like leadership. So think about what boundaries you might need to set, or how are your boundaries? Are they okay in your community? Listen. Now, listen, but not just like waiting for your turn to speak. Okay, good. Like when they stop talking, I'm going to have a rebuttal, or I can't wait to interject my position. But I'm talking about the kind of listening, as far as I'm concerned, you need to listen in a way that allows yourself to be transformed by what the group is saying, and what the individual or the group or what the community is offering. Be willing to be transformed by it. So it's not just like a passive listening and your mind wanders, although we all know that we do that sometimes. I'm not saying I don't, but I really try to allow myself sometimes, when I can, to be transformed by what the other is saying. Have an accountability group as well to help with boundaries and goals. Thank you for that, Anderson. You're chock full of wisdom. I appreciate it. Yes, have an accountability group as well. Okay, a few more for you guys. We're doing great. We're almost there. Be curious. Yeah. Be curious. I don't know. Can you cultivate curiosity? I think, are you either naturally curious or not, or can you work on your curiosity? I mean, there's so much to be curious about in life. Legit. Like, everybody has a story and a relationship with God that is so compelling. I'm like deeply curious about all y'all. So if ever you want to talk to me, I love listening. I'm super curious. Maybe to a fault. Jillian says, as a settler Canadian, I really appreciated the way boundaries were communicated when I attended a powwow last summer. It was really clear what was expected of me as a guest and what appropriate behavior was, and I was struck at how rare that was. The rules were posted like, I love pickets. That actually really was helpful, Jillian. Thank you. I think sometimes, maybe like the Canadian polite me is like afraid of boundaries because I don't want to offend anybody. But we feel safe around boundaries. I know that in the classroom. As an educator, I know my kids love boundaries because they know what's going on. So I think sometimes I'm kind of like my ideal of flat leadership means that everybody should have equal opportunity to whatever, and we should, unless you are crossing certain boundaries, taking up too much space, and ruining it for everybody. So thanks for that mention of the powwow and the clarity for you. The expectations and the clarity as a guest helped you to have a better time. Hey, Sue, and welcome. Thanks for being here. We're talking about community today. So glad that many of us are hopping on live with Leanne to build community in a digital way. Okay, be kind. That should speak for itself. And sometimes being kind means setting boundaries, right? And being clear. Be prayerful. Always invite God in. God is the guest of honor. And again, there's a million ways you can do this. I have been in communities where, Christian communities, FYI, where we didn't even pray, but we knew because we were doing all the things of being Christians. Swap out the word Christian for decent, Anderson. We were doing all these things that was like so Holy Spirit filled. And we didn't even have to say Holy Spirit. Is that weird? I don't think so. So being prayerful can mean a million different things to a million different people. It can mean putting your hands up and inviting God. It can mean doing this. It can mean kneeling, closing your eyes, meditating. Or it can just mean being decent, respectful, setting boundaries, being in community. Always set time apart. Always set time apart time and stick to it. Can you say more about that, Anderson? I'm not sure I get it. But let the Spirit be the motivation for your gathering. Whether that be implicit or explicit, I don't know how you guys are going to treat that. But I think when that is your motivation and your heart, then that, I believe, is a way of building. It's a do for the community. Not a don't, it's a do. Be prayerful. The last one I have, it's number 10 for the do's and don'ts of community building. Be open. Be willing to meet new people. Be willing to learn new things. And be willing to allow God to work through you. Trust that God is the whole reason why you guys are there. And I guess it's sort of like the curiosity piece, but be open. I hope you guys will add some do's and don'ts. Do you have any more to add? Did I read all my quotes? Did I get through everything? I have this document for you, by the way. It is yours, and Bishop Mary is including another one. And it's yours. I'm going to put a link onto our website and then link it here. And it's yours to do what you want with. There are some quotes. There are some stuff. There's the bits around with Scott Peck's stages of community and characteristics of community. And I don't know, hopefully that's helpful for you in terms of the communities that you are building or dreaming of building, and the relationships that you are hoping to build. We're doing Supper Club in 2 weeks from yesterday. It's our last one of the season. It's our last one. We take a little break for summer to regroup and come back together again in the fall. You thanks for that time. Let me just see if I can fix Anderson. Have an accountability group as well to help with boundaries and goals. Always set time apart and stick to it. Always set time apart. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Maybe be really clear around time, start, and finish. Is that what you mean? I think that's a really helpful as well. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for being here, for your presence, for building community with me. We do this every Tuesday morning at 10, and I'm going to tell you it is a great way to build community. And your presence means so much, and I'm just so appreciative. I hope you guys looked at Bruce Myers' Bishop Bruce. He was here last week. You're very Christ-like. Thanks, Anderson. Yeah, thank you. You guys can check out any of the other videos that we do. We do them every Tuesday, and they're always here. So you can just, if ever you feel like you're in the mood, check out one of the other episodes. They're all here on the Facebook, so you're welcome to watch them. No, I mean, it's important to have time off for you time. Yes, time off for you time. Thank you. It is important. Yeah. Community building can be quite a lot and take a lot of energy, so we need to make sure that we replenish ourselves. So join me in less than 2 weeks for Supper Club right here in downtown Montreal. We are going to have a lovely end of the year celebration. As always, we gather together for fellowship, friendship, food, conversation, prayer, worship. Yeah, a little bit of provocative discussion. Hopefully, I like a little provocative discussion. So hopefully you guys will build community face-to-face with me less than 2 weeks' time. And otherwise, I'm back again next Tuesday morning, back with guests. Thanks for voting on this poll and letting me know. I do still want to do a digital one because I have tons of tips for you on that too, and I'm just excited to share all that stuff with you. Oh, one more thing, okay? Big announcement. Thursday morning, 10 o'clock, Neil Mancourt, you guys, is going to be doing a webinar and a Facebook Live all about Messy Church. He's on fire with Messy Church. I'm going to read that in a second, Jillian. He's on fire with Messy Church because he just came back from the UK. He went to the Messy Church conference out in the UK. International, guys. People all over the world are on fire with Messy Church. So I'm going to put the link to that too. I have a lot of work to do this afternoon. I'm going to put the link to Neil. I'm going to put the link to the community building, and I'm going to just keep on being with you in this way. Jillian says, I'd be curious to see you talk about the limits and gifts of digital community in a future talk. Cool. Love that idea. Let's do that. Let's totally do that. You guys are the best. I thank you so much for joining Live with Leanne, today's episode number 100 and whatever. And we'll be back again next Tuesday morning for more of the same. We'll have guests again. And thanks so much to Ardith for all the links. And thanks so much for all the hearts and the thumbs up and the love. And it is my absolute pleasure to do this with you guys. And I just so appreciate you. So thanks, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Have a super blessed week.